On June 18, 2025, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration (FDA) made a historic announcement by approving lenacapavir, a revolutionary biannual injection for the prevention of HIV. Marketed under the trade name Yeztugo by Gilead Sciences, this innovative treatment marks a significant advancement in strategies aimed at combating the HIV/AIDS epidemic. Overview of lenacapavir. Lenacapavir is an antiretroviral medication that operates by inhibiting the reproduction of the HIV virus at its early stages. Specifically, it targets the capsid protein essential for the virus's life cycle. Unlike traditional pre-exposure prophylaxis PrEP pills, which require daily adherence, lenacapavir only necessitates 2 doses per year. Clinical trials have demonstrated its impressive effectiveness, boasting a 99.9% success rate in preventing HIV infections among participants weighing more than 35 kilograms. The approval of lenacapavir for prophylactic use represents a significant leap forward, as it had previously been utilized only for treating patients with resistant strains of HIV. Implications for public health. The introduction of lenacapavir is anticipated to transform preventive care for populations at high risk of HIV infection. Traditional methods such as daily PrEP pills have faced challenges related to consistency and adherence, making lenacapavir's long-lasting effects a promising alternative. Daniel O'Day, the CEO of Gilead Sciences, emphasized the historical significance of this approval, stating, "This is a historic day in the decades-long fight against HIV. The availability of an injectable solution could help streamline access to HIV prevention, particularly in areas where daily medication adherence is difficult." Manufacturing and accessibility concerns. Gilead Sciences has pledged to manufacture 10 million doses of lenacapavir by 2026. However, the drug's annual list price of $28,218 per person in the United States has raised concerns about affordability and access, particularly for marginalized communities heavily impacted by HIV. Winnie Byanyima, executive director of UNAIDS, highlighted these affordability issues, stressing the need for accessible treatment options, especially in low-income regions such as sub-Saharan Africa, where 2/3 of the global HIV-positive population resides. In response to these concerns, Gilead has outlined a 2-part strategy to enhance accessibility in 120 high-incidence, resource-limited countries. This strategy includes voluntary licensing, allowing other manufacturers to produce generic versions of lenacapavir. Additionally, Gilead has committed to providing the medication at no profit until generic alternatives can adequately meet demand in these countries. Conclusion. The FDA's approval of lenacapavir represents a monumental advancement in HIV prevention efforts, while it offers a promising alternative to daily PrEP. Significant challenges related to pricing and accessibility must be addressed to ensure that this breakthrough medication reaches those who need it most. With continued efforts to make lenacapavir accessible globally, there is hope that it could play a crucial role in ending the HIV epidemic. The public health community is optimistic about the potential of this innovative treatment, which could significantly enhance the quality of life for individuals at risk of HIV infection. The FDA's approval of lenacapavir, marketed as Yeztugo, represents a major shift in HIV prevention strategies, offering a biannual injection that demonstrates an impressive 99.9% effectiveness in clinical trials. This innovative approach contrasts sharply with the daily adherence required for existing PrEP pills, addressing a significant barrier many users face in maintaining consistent use. However, the high cost of the drug, set at $28,218 annually in the U.S., raises pressing concerns about accessibility, particularly in low-income regions where the burden of HIV is most pronounced. One counterintuitive aspect of this development is the notion that a more convenient treatment like lenacapavir could exacerbate disparities in access rather than alleviate them. While the injection's biannual schedule is designed to improve adherence, the financial implications could limit its reach to those who need it most. For instance, despite the drug's potential to transform prevention strategies in high-risk populations, its affordability remains a critical issue. This situation underscores a broader paradox in public health. Advancements in medical technology and pharmaceuticals do not automatically translate to equitable access for all affected communities. Additionally, the approval of lenacapavir for prophylactic use is surprising considering that its initial applications were focused on treating drug-resistant forms of HIV. This shift highlights the evolving understanding of HIV prevention and treatment. But it also raises questions about the scalability of such innovative approaches in resource-limited settings. Gilead Sciences' commitment to producing 10 million doses by 2026 and its two-part strategy to improve access through voluntary licensing may help address some concerns, yet the effectiveness of these measures in practice remains to be seen. Moreover, the reaction from global health leaders, including concerns voiced by Winnie Byanyima of UNAIDS regarding the drug's affordability, points to a potential disconnect between scientific advancements and the socioeconomic realities faced by many individuals living with HIV. The expectation that a new highly effective treatment will inherently lead to improved public health outcomes must be tempered with an understanding of the systemic barriers that often prevent vulnerable populations from accessing such innovations. In summary, while lenacapavir's approval is a landmark achievement in HIV prevention, the interplay of efficacy, affordability, and accessibility presents a complex challenge. As public health advocates push for comprehensive strategies to tackle the HIV epidemic, it is crucial to ensure that advancements in treatment do not leave behind the very populations they aim to serve. The FDA's approval of lenacapavir, marketed as Yeztugo, as a biannual preventive treatment for HIV is a significant development in the fight against the HIV/AIDS epidemic, but there are several nuanced aspects of this approval that merit deeper consideration, particularly regarding its accessibility, potential impact on public health, and the implications of pricing strategies on health equity. 1. Efficacy and mechanism of action. One of the most crucial yet often overlooked elements of lenacapavir's approval is its mechanism of action. Unlike traditional preventive measures such as daily PrEP pills, which rely on consistent adherence and immune system engagement, lenacapavir operates by inhibiting the capsid protein of HIV, effectively preventing the virus from replicating during its early stages. This biochemical approach means that even if an exposure to HIV occurs, the drug can prevent the virus from establishing infection. The significance of this is profound. 99.9% efficacy in clinical trials offers a much higher level of protection compared to existing options. The long-lasting nature of lenacapavir could shift the paradigm of HIV prevention from daily adherence to biannual administration, potentially reducing the number of infections in high-risk populations significantly. 2. Public health implications. The implications of lenacapavir for public health extend beyond the individual. Its introduction could lead to a marked reduction in HIV transmission rates, particularly in high-incidence areas such as sub-Saharan Africa, where approximately two-thirds of people living with HIV reside. However, the approval of lenacapavir must be seen as part of a broader strategy to combat the epidemic, which includes education, testing, and treatment for those already living with HIV. The potential success of lenacapavir hinges on its integration into existing public health frameworks and the collaboration between various stakeholders, including governments, NGOs, and healthcare providers, will be essential to maximize its impact. 3. Cost and accessibility issues. The pricing of lenacapavir at $28,218 per person annually in the U.S. raises significant concerns about accessibility, particularly for marginalized populations who are disproportionately affected by HIV. While Gilead Sciences has proposed a two-part strategy to enhance access, including voluntary licensing for generic production and providing the drug at no profit in certain low and middle-income countries, the effectiveness of this strategy is yet to be seen. Critics, including public health leaders like Winnie Byanyima of UNAIDS, emphasize that without aggressive pricing strategies and equitable distribution methods, the potential benefits of lenacapavir may not reach those who need it most. 4. Voluntary licensing and its significance. The voluntary licensing component of Gilead's access strategy is a key aspect that deserves attention.
This approach allows other manufacturers to produce generic versions of lenacapavir, which could significantly reduce costs in resource-limited settings.
However, the success of this initiative will depend on the willingness of other pharmaceutical companies to engage in this agreement and the regulatory environments of the countries involved. The dynamics of global pharmaceutical licensing can often be complex, and historical precedents suggest that the actual availability of generics may lag behind initial agreements. Therefore, monitoring and advocacy will be essential to ensure that these plans translate into real-world access. 5. Public perception and stigma. Another often overlooked aspect is the social implications of introducing a new preventive measure such as lenacapavir. There remains a significant stigma surrounding HIV, which can affect how communities perceive new prevention methods. Public education campaigns will be essential to destigmatize both HIV and the use of preventive treatments like lenacapavir. Failure to address these social challenges could hinder uptake even if the drug is accessible and affordable. 6. Long-term sustainability and commitment. Gilead's commitment to producing 10 million doses by 2026 is a promising step. But the long-term sustainability of such initiatives is critical. Stakeholder engagement and ongoing investment in HIV research and treatment options are necessary to maintain momentum in combating the epidemic. The pharmaceutical industry must demonstrate a commitment not only to profit but to public health outcomes, particularly in vulnerable populations. 7. Global health equity. Lastly, the approval of lenacapavir raises broader questions about global health equity. While it represents a significant scientific advancement, it also underscores the disparities in healthcare access between high-income and low-income countries. The HIV epidemic disproportionately affects marginalized groups, and any new treatment must be coupled with efforts to address the systemic inequities that contribute to these disparities. Programs aimed at improving healthcare infrastructure, education, and preventive measures are vital to complement the introduction of lenacapavir. Conclusion. In summary, while the FDA's approval of lenacapavir heralds a transformative moment in HIV prevention, several critical aspects call for attention. These include the drug's mechanism of action, public health implications, affordability and access strategies, the importance of voluntary licensing, the need for public perception management, the commitment to long-term sustainability, and the overarching goals of global health equity. Addressing these nuances will be essential to ensuring that lenacapavir not only serves as a groundbreaking treatment but also as a catalyst for broader changes in the fight against HIV/AIDS. The success of lenacapavir will ultimately depend on collaborative efforts that transcend individual treatment and encompass comprehensive public health strategies. 1. Efficacy and mechanism of action. Lenacapavir has demonstrated a remarkable 99.9% efficacy in preventing HIV infection, significantly surpassing existing preventive measures like daily PrEP pills. The drug works by targeting the capsid protein of the virus, blocking its reproduction in the early stages. This innovative approach not only enhances prevention strategies but also represents a scientific breakthrough in the long-term management of HIV prevention. 2. Accessibility and pricing challenges. Despite its groundbreaking nature, lenacapavir's annual price of $28,218 per person in the U.S. raises significant concerns regarding accessibility, particularly for populations in low-income regions heavily affected by HIV. The high cost poses a barrier to effective public health strategies aimed at controlling the epidemic, especially in sub-Saharan Africa where the burden of HIV is most severe. Addressing these affordability issues is critical to ensuring that the drug benefits the populations that need it most. 3. Gilead's commitment to global access. In response to concerns about affordability, Gilead Sciences has outlined a two-part strategy to enhance access to lenacapavir in 120 high-incidence, resource-limited countries. This includes voluntary licensing for generic production and offering the medication at no profit until generics are available. This commitment is crucial for ensuring that lenacapavir can reach vulnerable populations in areas disproportionately affected by HIV. For potential impact on public health strategies, the approval of lenacapavir is heralded as a pivotal moment in the fight against HIV/AIDS, with public health leaders emphasizing its potential to reshape prevention strategies. The shift from daily medication adherence to biannual injections could significantly improve compliance rates and health outcomes for high-risk populations, thereby playing a vital role in efforts to end the HIV epidemic globally. However, overcoming the challenges of pricing and accessibility will be essential for realizing this potential impact. 1. The introduction of the polio vaccine 1955. The development and subsequent approval of the polio vaccine by Dr. Jonas Salk marked a pivotal moment in public health history. With polio being a devastating disease that paralyzed thousands of children annually, the vaccine provided a means to prevent infection effectively. The widespread immunization efforts that followed led to a dramatic decline in polio cases and eventually the near eradication of the disease in the United States. The challenges regarding access and distribution of the vaccine, especially in poorer regions, echoed similar concerns as those raised with the approval of lenacapavir for HIV prevention. 2. The approval of ART for HIV treatment 1996. The introduction of antiretroviral therapy ART for HIV treatment significantly transformed the landscape of HIV/AIDS management. The combination therapy drastically improved the life expectancy and quality of life for individuals living with HIV. However, similar to the recent approval of lenacapavir, the initial high costs of these treatments raised concerns about accessibility, especially in low-income countries where HIV prevalence was high. The global response to these challenges included funding initiatives and programs aimed at increasing access to ART, which parallels Gilead's current efforts to enhance access to lenacapavir in resource-limited settings. 3. The FDA approval of the first contraceptive pill 1960. The approval of Enovid, the first oral contraceptive pill, was a significant milestone in reproductive health and women's rights. It provided women with unprecedented control over their reproductive choices and led to profound social changes. However, issues related to affordability and access, particularly for lower-income women, were contentious from the outset. The parallels with lenacapavir lie in the transformative potential of the drug and the ongoing debates about accessibility and equity in healthcare, especially concerning marginalized populations who may benefit most from such innovations. The approval of lenacapavir by the FDA marks a pivotal moment in the fight against HIV/AIDS, with predictions for its future impact on public health accessibility and the broader landscape of HIV prevention and treatment. 1. Transforming HIV prevention. Lenacapavir's biannual dosing schedule significantly simplifies adherence compared to daily PrEP pills. This shift is expected to enhance uptake, particularly among high-risk populations who may struggle with daily medication regimens. Over the next 5 years, we anticipate a gradual increase in the adoption of lenacapavir, especially in urban areas and among young adults who are often more receptive to innovative healthcare solutions. This could lead to a substantial reduction in new HIV infections, particularly in regions with high incidence rates. 2. Addressing access and affordability. While lenacapavir's efficacy is promising, its annual list price of $28,218 poses significant barriers, particularly in low-income regions where the HIV burden is greatest. Gilead's commitment to voluntary licensing and providing the drug at no profit in resource-limited countries is a critical step toward enhancing access. Over the next decade, we expect to see a proliferation of generic versions of lenacapavir as partnerships develop between Gilead and local manufacturers. This could lead to a substantial decrease in price, making the drug more accessible to those in need. 3. Global health equity. The introduction of lenacapavir could catalyze a broader discussion on health equity in HIV prevention. As global health stakeholders increasingly focus on ensuring access to life-saving medications, lenacapavir may serve as a model for future innovations in drug accessibility. The success of its rollout in resource-limited settings could encourage other pharmaceutical companies to adopt similar strategies, ultimately leading to a more equitable healthcare landscape. 4. Shifting public health strategies. Lenacapavir's approval will likely prompt a re-evaluation of public health strategies for HIV prevention. Governments and organizations may prioritize funding and resources toward long-acting injectable treatments, potentially leading to a decrease in the emphasis on daily medication adherence programs. This could result in a paradigm shift in how prevention efforts are structured, focusing on long-term solutions rather than short-term adherence challenges. 5. Research and development momentum. The successful implementation of lenacapavir could spur further research and development in long-acting antiviral therapies. Pharmaceutical companies may invest more heavily in similar innovations, leading to the development of new treatments that offer convenience and efficacy. This momentum could also extend beyond HIV to other infectious diseases, fostering a wave of innovative solutions to global health challenges. 6. Community engagement and education. For lenacapavir to realize its full potential, robust community engagement and education efforts will be essential. Public health campaigns will need to effectively communicate the benefits of this new prevention method, addressing any concerns around its use and encouraging uptake. Over the next few years, we can expect to see increased collaboration between health organizations and community leaders to ensure that the populations most at risk are informed and equipped to access lenacapavir. 7. Monitoring and evaluation. As lenacapavir is integrated into public health systems, ongoing monitoring and evaluation will be critical to assess its real-world effectiveness and impact on HIV transmission rates. Data collected over the coming years will provide valuable insights into the drug's performance across diverse populations and settings. This information will be crucial for policymakers and health organizations as they refine strategies for HIV prevention. 8. Potential challenges and solutions. Despite its promise, the rollout of lenacapavir will not be without challenges. Issues related to supply chain logistics, storage requirements, and healthcare provider training will need to be addressed to ensure the drug reaches those in need. Collaborative efforts between governments, NGOs, and the private sector will be vital to overcome these hurdles, ensuring that lenacapavir can be effectively integrated into existing healthcare systems worldwide. Conclusion. The FDA's approval of lenacapavir represents a groundbreaking advancement in HIV prevention with the potential to transform public health outcomes and reduce new infections significantly. While challenges related to affordability and access remain, proactive strategies and collaborations can pave the way for a more equitable healthcare landscape. As we look to the future, lenacapavir may not only change the course of the HIV epidemic but also inspire a new era of innovation in global health.